What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I quit Fortnite in Chapter 2 and then why I ended up coming back towards the end of Chapter 2. Sorry if this video clickbaited anybody, but this is something that has happened in the past. Been asked about this a few times, and it kind of comes up when talking about other things in the game and kind of how I view the game. But I've never really made a video kind of talking about this entirely. Now is a good time to kind of do that with it being the end of the season. So if this is something you're interested in hearing about or hearing about kind of the history of the game, that's what this video is going to be about. If you guys enjoyed this, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of this or what you think of this time period in Fortnite, what you hope to see in Season 4, anything like that. So the main reason why I ended up quitting the game is just going to come down to burnout. Obviously, there was factors within the game that weren't ideal at the time, but those wouldn't have been that big of a deal if I wasn't so burned out on the game. So I started playing Fortnite the second day it came out. I actually downloaded it the first day it came out, but I wasn't really that excited to play it. It was just like, all right, I'll download this, and then when it's playable at some point in the future, I'll play it. Or maybe I put it on download before I got off for the night. Something along those lines. I was really excited for PUBG to come to Xbox, and so when Fortnite came out and it was a BR on console, I was like, okay, cool, I'll play this game until PUBG comes out or until Call of Duty World War II comes out. One of the really, one of the things that Fortnite did really well was releasing, I think, late September for BR. And if you guys know gaming, most games tend to kind of come out like late October, early November, kind of preparing for like that December, shopping period. So Fortnite coming out when there wasn't as much competition, I feel like definitely drove a lot of people to try it. And so when Call of Duty World War II came out and when PUBG on console came out, I didn't enjoy really those games that much. I enjoyed Fortnite so much more. So I ended up just sticking with Fortnite and actually streamed Fortnite, I think, every day. I don't think I missed a day of streaming until like late 2019. So it's over 2 years of not missing a single day of streaming. I started off streaming on YouTube. I switched to Twitch like spring of 2019, I think. And so that's an incredibly just like long time to not take any breaks with the game. Also have my Twitch tracker on here. Every day that's lit up is a day that I streamed. There's not anything like this for YouTube streams, but it just goes to show that like I played the game way too much back in the day. Obviously, I think Chapter 1 was great, but there was time periods that weren't as great, and when you just play too much, like the little things are going to irritate you way more with the game. And you see now with like the more recent years on this Twitch tracker, I tend to not stream on Sundays. I do kind of take more time off of streaming, and it definitely makes the game more enjoyable. Even just like 1 or 2 days to kind of not play as much makes those little things less irritating. And part of that just comes down to like the mechanics of Fortnite with building are so muscle memory based that I feel like, and if you guys play builds, you can kind of relate to this. Like even just taking 1 or 2 days off of the game, I feel like so washed when I end up coming back. And that is like one of the reasons why I never took any breaks with the game, is it feels like you're taking so many steps backwards in builds. Like I still play both modes every day. And even if I have a day where I don't play builds for whatever reason, I feel like so terrible for like 2 or 3 days after that. So that burnout contributed to it for sure. Season X wasn't great. It was probably, I think, the worst season of Fortnite. And then Chapter 2 Season 1 came out. This was the season that had the black hole event leading up to it. So like they had the black hole, got a lot of hype and publicity for the season. Everyone was wondering what was going on with Fortnite. And then they launched Chapter 2. This was the first time they'd ever added a new map. They redid the loot pool in a lot of ways. There's just a lot of newness with this chapter. And it was, I think, Chapter 2 Season 1, without the delays, would have been the best season ever. But there were so many delays and so few updates that this season was not that great. It started in October, I believe, of 2019, and it went until late February of 2020. And a lot of people kind of attribute the delays to the season to what was going on in the world in 2020. However, I feel like that is just vastly incorrect. This was supposed to be the shortest season ever, I think. I can't find the like actual supposed the first initial date it was supposed to end, because there was so many delays. It's hard to find the first one. You just find articles about the delays. But I think, if I remember correctly, it was supposed to be the shortest Fortnite season ever, and it ended up being the longest. And this was like the first ever like long season we had had. Prior to this, seasons were like 70 to 90 days or so. They were always like 10 weeks, and there was never really any delays that I can remember. And then Chapter 2 Season 1 comes out. There's no updates. There's pretty much no communication from Epic at all. And then there's constant delays. And they wouldn't just like delay it. We would get close to the supposed end date, and then they would tack on another delay. So we're like 5 days away from season 4 as of the time I'm recording this. Imagine how tilting it would be if we woke up tomorrow and they were like, you know what? September for that season. That it's gonna come in late September, actually. Sorry guys, we were trolling you. And then late September comes and they're like, you know what? October 31st. And then October comes and they're like, you know what, December. That was like what was happening with early chapter 2. It was just like you would get close to the launch of a season, delays. And then because they were delaying the season, there wasn't really any updates in between. I think the only updates for chapter 2 season 1 was like a Star Wars event where like the director of the movie talked to us at Risky Reels, and then they added the lightsabers, and then I think they added the harpoon, and that was it. There was no updates. And prior to this, like I said, Fortnite seasons were always short, 70 to 90 days, and there was updates every week. And obviously we were spoiled to an extent, but that had been the norm that had been established for the first 2 years of Fortnite. So going from that to chapter 2 season 1 with a ridiculous amount of delays and no updates, I think is such a drastic change, you know? And people defend this season and say the content for the season was like the new map and loot pool. And that's true to an extent, but initially this was supposed to be the shortest season. You know, it wasn't supposed to be, I think 128 days long was how it was. And then also people attribute, like I said, people defend it and kind of blame the situation of the world in 2020, but this season was getting delayed before that was ever a problem. I think that could have affected chapter 2 season 2, which was the next season, chapter 2 season 2. I think this, again, if there wasn't delays, would have been the best Fortnite season ever. Genuinely, I think this would be the best season. Chapter 2 season 1 into chapter 2 season 2 probably would have been the peak Fortnite time, even better than chapter 1 if these seasons came out on time. So chapter 2 season 2 was like the spy themed season. It was a great theme overall for the season. We had the mythic bosses for the first time. I was not a huge fan of it, but it was something different, you know? And there was like a good consistent flow of content. However, we ended up getting delays again. So once we approached that end date of the season, they pushed it back and they pushed it back and they pushed it back. And then there wasn't updates during those delays because of that. I think this season started February, like late February 2020 and went until July 2020, something along those lines. It might have been June something, but it was just really long. And like I said earlier in the video, we would get close to an end date and then they would push it back even further. There wouldn't really be any content in that time. And also Fortnite wasn't very communicative about this at the time. We were just like often left wondering like what is going on with the game. Ended up being some good events this season. The Travis Scott event, the Device event. Overall, it was a good season, I think. But the delays in combination with like the burnout and like I was saying, not taking breaks ever, so you're just grinding a never-ending season that's not fun at the time. It just wasn't great. I think had I taken more breaks, I wouldn't have been as burned out at the time, and I wouldn't have been as irritated with the delays. So after that, we come to chapter 2 season 3, and this was the season that flooded the map. The map was completely flooded. It was a pretty cool mechanic for a season, actually. The map started out flooded because of what happened in the Device event, and then over the course of the season, week by week, the water level would go down and reveal more of the map. Unfortunately, it turned out for the most part that the parts of the map it revealed were just the parts that were there before, and the parts of the map that we had already been playing on for like a combined 240 days or so, because chapter 2 season 1 and chapter 2 season 2 were both 120 plus day long seasons. So wasn't as exciting as it should have been, but overall I think it was a cool mechanic. It just kind of stinks that like the launch version of the map was kind of the worst, but it was kind of an interesting way to change the map over the course of the season. However, I didn't play that long. This season also vaulted the pump in favor of the charge. There was these things called marauders. If you think the dinosaurs are annoying, there was these things called marauders, which would just like land on the map and attack you. Imagine like Highcard and his homies just randomly land on the map near you and then pull up on you and start fighting you for no reason. And it would also play music the entire time. There's a lot of things done this season that weren't great. I didn't like the flooded map. And also, like I said, we had been somewhat conditioned for chapter 2 for a 120-day long season. So when this came out and wasn't immediately what I wanted, I was like, I don't want to play 120 days of this, you know? So I ended up quitting the game. Turned out chapter 2 season 3 was the shortest season ever, if I remember correctly. So had I kept playing it, I wouldn't have been, you know, as irritated. But like I said, we had been, you know, conditioned at that point to expect 120 plus day seasons, not very many updates, and no communication from Epic. So when this season wasn't immediately what I wanted, I was, you know, pretty much done with the game. And I ended up playing Warzone, and I was kind of already leaning towards that to an extent. I think almost if I had played Warzone a bit before during the delays, I might have not wanted to quit. But I'm just so, I don't know, the way I am with games, I either like play one game all the time or I just don't, you know. And I feel like a lot of you can probably relate to that if you like grind multiplayer games like, you know, Fortnite, Apex, Call of Duty, whatever it is. So ended up going to Warzone. Warzone in year 1, year 2 was pretty okay. Like, it was a solid game. A lot of what it did better, like when it came out, was just really fast paced. You had a 150 player map. You had the gulag to bring players back into the game. You had the buyback system, which was just really convenient to get players back in the game. You had like UAVs and bounties, so it's always easy to find people. And part of the difference between Fortnite at the time was Fortnite lobbies were so dead. It was like pretty uncommon for there to be like more than 20 people after first zone. Like the lobbies would just die out so incredibly fast, and if you just spend all game looking for people. So going to Warzone in that fast pace was really fun. And I had played Call of Duty a lot. I started playing games online in COD 4, and I played every Call of Duty up to World War II. And you guys know how COD is if you played it. It's like riding a bike. It's very easy to get back into if you have some experience playing COD in the past, and I think that's part of why it's been so successful. So I go to Warzone. It was okay. It definitely had its problems though, for sure. Like every game there was like the hacking problems, the questionable activity with like, you know, Cronuses or, you know, people doing things to get easier lobbies definitely made it not as fun to stream because you're competing against, you know, people who are doing things to juice their numbers in a way. But like I was solid at Warzone. I think I had a 4 or 5 KD. It was a fun game to play at times. Unfortunately, solos in it weren't very good, and that's definitely something I missed. I enjoy playing solos and streaming solos most. It's just much more convenient to kind of just play the game and talk to chat when playing solos rather than juggling like playing the game, talking to your teammates, and then also talking to chat. I just enjoy streaming solos most. I don't like making plans with people to do things and then worrying about if they're going to get on time. So that is one of the things that made me want to come back to Fortnite when I was playing Warzone. Also, like I said, wasn't the most satisfying game to play at times, and also making content on this game was not satisfying at all. Like I can look back on my YouTube channel for like the past few months and scroll through and be like satisfied with the videos I've made, you know. Whereas Warzone, most of the thing people wanted to see was class setups, and it was very easy to make class setup videos. You could have a good day of playing and get an entire week's worth of videos because you really only needed like 1 or 2 games with the weapon, with the loadout, you know. And most weapons followed the same exact blueprint of how to run them, you know. Like ARs would be last suppressor, last barrel, either commando foregrip or I forget the other foregrip that was good, maybe Merc foregrip or something. There was like 2 grips that were good depending on the recoil of the weapon, 60 round mag, and then the 3x optic. And very few weapons deterred from that pattern. You know, the SMGs, there was a specific way to build the SMGs. And if you knew the game, it was not very difficult to come up with different class setup ideas. I think if the weapon customization was actually more complex, I might have enjoyed making, you know, weapons more. When I played Magic, the making decks was my favorite part of the game probably. Either way, it was really simple to make videos on that game, and it wasn't very satisfying. When Chapter 2 seemed like it was ending, I think I saw a Cypher PK video in my recommended about how Chapter 2 Season 8 was going to be the last season of Chapter 2. He kind of like compiled all the evidence and theories that people had and kind of like clues that there was pointing to that. And so when I saw that, I was pretty motivated to play the game again. I really did not want to have to play Call of Duty Vanguard to level up weapons because that is how Warzone works. Warzone is free, but they would sell the new Call of Duty game, and then you would have like a month or 2 to level up the guns in that Call of Duty game before they came to Warzone. And it was a way they would basically use the Warzone player base to buy the main Call of Duty. And that's fine, but I just had zero interest in playing traditional multiplayer, you know, like, you know, TDM, domination, whatever it is. It just wasn't fun to me at that point in time after playing it for like 10 plus years and playing BRs and kind of having that higher stakes in the matches. Going back to core multiplayer was just not fun, especially for like videos and streaming. I did not enjoy streaming COD multiplayer. And also I feel like if you're of the mindset that like, all right, I need to get on this game so I can level up this gun to get the attachments to use in a completely different game, it's just not going to be a good time to play. You know, that's just not an enjoyable way to view the game or view your time playing the game. So yeah, I had zero interest in playing Vanguard. seemed like chapter 2 was ending. I was like, this will be a decent time to come back, and I did end up coming back. Obviously it took a while. It's very hard to come back to Fortnite with building, and this was before zero build ever came out, so I had to play a lot in chapter 2 season 8 and chapter 3 season 1, like creative and stuff, to get like decent again. And I think that is one of the main deterrents that kind of stops people coming back from Fortnite. I talked earlier in the video about how easy it is to come back to COD if you've played COD. Fortnite is not like that. If you haven't played in a while, with building at least, you're going to be very behind, and it's going to be a while before you're decent again. And also, around the time I quit, in chapter 2, like the peace control meta really started to become a thing, and box fighting was already a thing, but it started to become even more and more the meta. So I was really behind in that aspect, and it took a while to get decent again, but ended up doing it. Zero build came out. Obviously, that was huge for my channel. Zero build kind of solves that problem of making it easier for new players to come back to the game, but I did come back before zero build came out. I still play both builds and zero builds, but that is gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. Like I said, this is something I get asked about, and it's hard to just lay all that out there while I'm like streaming Fortnite and like trying to play the game at the same time, you know? So yeah, I hope you guys found this interesting. Give it a like if you did. Subscribe if you like to see more. Use creator code EvolveJake in the Fortnite item shop when getting next season's battle pass, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.